have a national debt crisis. We have a welfare state that has expanded itself and lived far beyond its means. We have a foreign war, which has lasted for over a decade now. And we have a domestic drug war, which has lasted for several decades. Now, any one of these things would be bad enough on its own, but all four of them together is an absolute showstopper for us in our free republic. Slowly but surely, they are wrecking our country. They will bankrupt us eventually. When that happens, it's going to introduce a level of chaos into our lives that we haven't seen before. And when that moment comes, when the balance tips, every single one of us is going to be wishing that we had done something beforehand to prepare ourselves, to prevent it, to do the right thing. That's why I'm here now to talk to you. I'll be honest, I don't think there's anything we can do about the wars or the national debt. We've already been screaming and crying about it for years now, and the federal government refuses to listen. It's obvious that having a 9% approval rating for Congress doesn't seem to bother them much. The fact that 70% of our population is polling and saying that they want us to declare victory in Afghanistan and return home, it hasn't slowed them down a bit. They have an agenda, and they're going to follow through with it come hell or high water. But I don't think the rest of us have to be dragged along with it. I think that we can save ourselves and our local communities if we all band together right now and start doing the right thing and taking control of our local systems and our state systems. I think we can save America at the local level if we take back control of our lives and our future. Yes, the federal government will fail. There's not much we can do about that as the common people. And really, this is historic precedent. There's nothing new about it. At least half a dozen times in human history that we know of, empires have come to their climax and then swiftly after they decline. All this means for us is that the American empire will fall apart, and as soon as it does, we can begin rebuilding the old republic. And she's been deeply missed, let me tell you. In order to do this, I believe we need to accomplish a few things here locally in our state government and economy. The first one I'm going to talk about is our tax system. Personally, I'm of the mentality that your money is your property, and I'm a firm believer in property rights. Some people believe our money belongs to the federal government since they've taken over the process of printing it and overprinting it. I have to disagree with that theory. I think your money represents your labor, it represents your resources, your buying power, it represents your investments. In essence, it represents all of your property, so therefore, it is your property. If everybody's on the same page with me on that, I think you'll understand my philosophy very well. If not, I can explain it in finer detail later. But with this understanding in mind, that our money is our property, I think it's illegal and immoral for any government to pretend that they have the right to tax our property or our money. Some people are overjoyed when they hear this. Other people start to panic. Apparently, they don't realize the multitude of ways that our government, through taxation and fees, gets their money out of us every day. Trust me, they're not going to be going anywhere. We can find other ways, more legitimate and more moral, to tax people. We already do, in fact. The state lottery by itself is a revenue generator, and it pays for itself, I found out. In 2010, it made about $69 million. I approve of programs like that as long as they're voluntary, but I don't think that an involuntary income tax is justified. I approve of use taxes, tolls, other things like that that you as a consumer can control. It won't do much to get rid of government, but it'll at least send them a message that they have to curb their spending habits. And there's a lot that we can cut. For example, we spend about 60% of our state budget on education, which is the second part of my platform. With that amount of money going into subsidies for public education, we would expect to have some pretty sharp students these days. Unfortunately, the statistics don't confirm that. The information I have here says that homeschooled students will score approximately 30 to 39 points higher, percentile points higher, on standardized tests as opposed to their publicly schooled peers. That's a pretty substantial amount and a worthy trade-off, I think. I know that my own brother and my aunt both chose the route of homeschooling their children, and they've turned out to be pretty sharp. I think that by putting that extra effort into developing your children, into showing that you care, just by creating a good environment for learning, you're going to increase their potential and their success in life. Now, if people choose to send their children to public schooling systems, then they have every right. But I don't believe that everyone should be forced to pay for that, which is why I want to reintroduce House Bill 2767, which allows for tax credits to anyone who donates to funding for scholarships that will allow families to choose alternate education for their children. I think that's a good first step. It'll get some of us compensated for helping our neighbors. But I plan to go much further. I want to get as many tax credits as possible for people who homeschool their children or send their children to private or church schools. I don't think that we have to subsidize them. I don't think that we have to spend any more money on it. All we have to do is let them keep the money that they need to be successful, the money that they earned. They're already passionate about educating their children. They're going to use it to make sure that they're successful. Lastly, the third point in my platform, I'm going to tell you about a few things that we can't afford anymore and we can no longer accommodate. Right now, the flood of immigration in our nation has come to a standstill because the economy is drying up, the jobs market is empty. So naturally, those who came here to work are leaving. And it really makes me sad because personally I'm of the mind that we can allow people to come here and work as long as they do so peacefully and they lead lawful, productive lives. However, the problems arose for us when we had massive immigration and we had certain people coming to our country to take advantage of the generous welfare programs we have here and our state benefits, which were collected from the taxes that our citizens paid and were intended to be used for them. And unfortunately, now that the economy is falling apart on us and all of those who came here to work are leaving, those who want to access our benefit system are staying put, and we can no longer sustain it. There's a serious discussion being held now as to how and if we can even continue to sustain Social Security and Medicaid. I have articles on this as well, that our state Senate is hopeful for a $120 million subsidy from the government in order to fund these programs. It's obvious that our own citizens are going to have dire need of this funding soon, and we are obligated to them. We can't afford to give away the money that they paid in. Personally, I don't believe in welfare. I think we'll be better off once we abolish all of these welfare programs and nanny state programs. I think that if we allow people to keep their money, most of them will choose to spend it wisely and do the right thing and prepare themselves. But if we decide to tax our citizens under the pretext of providing care and assistance to them when they're old and need it, then we better follow through with that promise. So, I think we need to bring back an amendment that Tim Huelskamp worked on in 2008 and reintroduce it in the Senate that would have specified that no state benefits programs, no welfare programs or food stamps would be given to non-citizens or illegal immigrants. If that plan fails, then I'm willing to even introduce an amendment to our state constitution which will establish specifically the rights of citizenship and the benefits attached to it and who will be applicable for those benefits.